black or white.
I brought the blue. Don't worry. I brought the blue.
You have to understand, and we talk about it a lot. Me and Katrina do these things all the time. So, little things you notice.
Yep.
This is our office.
The weirdest. Yeah, our virtual office. You notice the weirdest things.
What the hell do you have on, Katrina?
It's like a nice sweater, zip sweater from the Gap. It's green.
Let's all say what we're wearing. I am wearing a Morona, aka Target, long sleeve t-shirt.
I like the Fitbit, by the way.
Thank you. Challenge. And what are you sporting today, Pete?
I have my Old Navy blue on, my Fitbit as well. I like long walks on the beach and contemptuous posts.
And I'm a Gemini.
Amen. You sure do. All right.
Awesome.
So I know in here.
Katrina usually tells you to introduce yourself, but
that's exactly where I was going with that. Hit it. So Pete, we all know you, right?
Yep.
Jackie and I definitely know you, but why don't you give a little bit of your background as far as what you do as a practitioner every day for everyone here so we can set the context for the convo?
Yeah, sure. So I am the principal technical recruiter here at ComScore. We do digital analytics, advertising effectiveness research, consumer behavior research. So I head up technical recruiting for basically all of North America for us. And that's my full-time job. And then I do a couple of things on the side. I'm a lead consultant for Exequio, which does more employment branding and research. I wrote for Recruiting Daily as well. And then I also sit on the board of directors for Recruit DC, which is a local nonprofit here in the DC area for recruiters. We do events, we do webinars, things like that to kind of keep skills up locally at a relatively low cost.
I didn't know you were so busy, dude.
Yeah, I try to keep multiple things going. So if one is going sour, I have other stuff to focus on instead of banging my head against the wall.
Hey,
I have a big forehead, so it's a very big zone that I can bang.
I'm not even gonna touch that.
Too easy.
Thank you.
All right. So today we're going to talk about candidate maintenance. And what do you mean when you say candidate maintenance?
It's about how you interact with people beyond the first engagement with them, right? And it's about making sure that there's that constant communication, that constant trust that goes on between the candidate and the recruiter. This is not a transactional business that we're in, despite how many people treat it as such. It's a relationship-driven business, and what's not a fit today might be a perfect fit 6 months from down the road. And you get one shot to kind of make that first impression, but you get multiple shots to make sure that the first impression was the real one.
Yeah. Well, and you can always screw it up in one shot, but you don't usually make
100%. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It can only go bad in one shot, but you have, if you do it right the first time, those folks will continue to come back and talk with you, despite, if it's not the right fit or if it's not the right opportunity. It's very simple. It's what we do is not rocket science. And I know that's an overused cliche, but it really is not rocket science what we do. It's human interaction.
Exactly. And
it's also not laying tile. It's not that freaking hard.
Right.
But when we kind of talked about the topic, we talked about how back in the day, and the older I get, the more I date myself. But back in the day, they used to talk about candidate control.
Yep.
And then we started calling it candidate influence. And now more or less we call it candidate. We're calling it candidate maintenance. And I think a lot of it, and I wanted you to elaborate on this, is you have to take it further than you used to. It doesn't end with you're not going to be a good choice for the position anymore.
Well, I think, control and influence those are really raw terms. And I think that, the maintenance of it, it's still, maintenance and engagement, I think, are still relatively interchangeable. You engage somebody the first time, but then you continue to do that. And, before it was very easy, it was very hard before. You had to pick up the phone, you had to meet them in person. Now it's as simple as an email to call and say, hey, my update is no update, but I'll get back with you in a couple of days. Or, hey, here's the feedback on everything, and here's why we're not going to move forward, or here's why we're moving in a different way. That's really easy to do now. We have that ability to do that within seconds. And so there's no excuse anymore for not keeping up the lines of communication. There's no excuse for a black hole anymore because people, they're easy to reach. They're easy to go ahead and manage, that process and that communication with them.
Right. And no news is news. I think so many people forget that, right? Like, yep. I think because we have such a volume of information, it's really easy to say, oh, they don't need one more email. They don't need one more call from me, but they do. They really do. And candidates want it more than we think.
Well, it's kind of like when you're dating and somebody says, oh, he won't call me back.
Yep.
I need closure.
Right.
Bitch, you want closure when he didn't call you back.
Well, sure. Absolutely. But now what happens when you see that person 6 months from now? You're not going to talk to them. You're going to walk away, but if you do close the loop on those things and you do inform people of what's going on, and, I think sometimes you can be more candid than in others. You have the opportunity to set that foundation that this is what people want and expect. They're going out of their way to want to work for your company or work with you as a recruiter, depending on whether you're in-house or you're on the third-party side. The least you can do is get back to them and let them know what's going on. It's common courtesy. This is not, this is not something that's terribly difficult.
Well, the biggest letdown is because you go in and you're like, Frank, I've got the perfect job for you. I think you'll be perfect. Call me back. You've got everything you're looking for, and then ghost.
Exactly.
Right.
Which makes it so much worse.
Yeah, and it happens both ways. I mean, candidates ghost us as well. That happens too. And it never feels good when it happens to us. And I think, I have a 7-year-old, and the main rule in our house, the number one rule is treat others how you want to be treated. And that doesn't just apply to kids. It applies to adults. It applies to professionals. It's very simple concept of what we're talking about.
Absolutely. We changed that in our house to treat people the way they want to be treated because we're crazy Claytons and
every house has its own madness.
Absolutely. Well, and I was actually going to ask that, in your recruiting career, when did this kind of come across your radar? Because I think a lot of people in recruiting specifically, there's not kind of a training pipeline, right? For marketing, you kind of, you go through working for this person and they review all your stuff and then you move to the next stuff. Recruiting isn't so much like that. So how did you learn how to do that or kind of build these skills and how valuable they are?
The hard way, by not engaging with people and thinking of it as transaction. And I started on the agency side, right? So everything is boom, boom, boom. You need submittals, you need numbers, you need spread. And I think when you get so wrapped up in that, you tend to lose a little bit of the soft side of the engagement piece of it and that continual engagement piece of it. And so I think when I went to the corporate side, I definitely got that sense of like, we're bringing in people to this house, if you will, of our company. And you treat somebody that you invite into your company the same way you treat a guest you invite into your house. And I don't want to for any second, like say that all agency recruitment is like that. But I think that that's just what I personally felt and probably why I left the agency side, because it was so much more transactional. It wasn't, I didn't feel like I could build long-term relationships because everybody was in it for what was good for them.
Right.
It's funny. I learned I worked at Robert Half. I have to say the same stories like every week, but I worked at Robert Half and we used to have candidate pipelines and we would go over our pipelines every single week. And I think that's where I learned it. And I talk about how my favorite reference on LinkedIn was the guy who said, she's the best recruiter who's never gotten me a job. And we knew each other for like 10 years. I never got him a job ever, but we always knew what was going on. He actually became a director and he would tell me what was going on. He hired my people. I just never found him a job. But I think that the other part that we talk about is that these candidates are going to be potential clients of your brand.
Sure.
Like a lot of us looked this week at the girl who quit from Yelp.
Oh, yeah.
So you can't fix stupid.
No. I mean, I knew when I called my boss an asshole and you're an idiot and I hung up on him, I probably wasn't going to keep my job that long.
Right. Yeah. It's the double-edged sword, right? We have all this easy technology to communicate with one another, to be able to blast out what we want to talk about and have conversations out in cyberspace. But there's clearly a downside to it as well, right? And if you want to take from that, go from what she wrote about her company to, what somebody writes on Glassdoor. The same is true for that. The only advantage on Glassdoor is that you get to be completely anonymous and there's no back and forth on it. You get one response from each side. So people will write anything they want because they know that it's anonymous, and we all know how anonymous things are on the internet. Eventually they wind up getting out.
Thinking about it from a candidate perspective, here's the thing. You accepted that job. And when you go through the recruiting process, part of what's important about building these relationships is that that you're getting a good fit. It's not just about the company name, that the salary is right, the commute is right, you understand the company culture before you get placed within a job. And so you can't get that in 2 minutes. You can't get that with the internet conversation. And like you're saying, it doesn't take very much to, when you send out, I still believe in emails. I think it's great. And whatever response you get to note that back to yourself. Like, here's a tip of the day within candidate maintenance. When you send out your blast emails and they respond, highlight that, like make it a favorite and go back so that you can build relationships. It's easier to build relationships to say, I can't talk, I'm on vacation. When you go back next week and say, hey, how was your vacation? You've started a relationship with those people.
And even the simple things, there are two things at the end of the week for me whenever I'm doing phone screens. Monday mornings are how was your weekend, and Fridays are like I start every conversation with Happy Friday. It's just a little bit of an icebreaker, a little something to make people feel like, okay, we're going to talk about some serious stuff about your career and what you've done, and we're going to talk about money and your situation. But I'm also human too. I was doing a training for a client yesterday, and what I find is that when I said to them, I use manager first names when I do a call with candidate. Really? What if they look them up? Like, well, let them look them up. Yeah. I'd rather know that they're actually going to work for a real person that I have a relationship with and that I'm being able to give you the straight scoop on. So I think for me, I think that personalization, that showing that like I'm not just a corporate face, I'm not just a shill. I'm here to make sure we have the best fit. And if it's not the best fit, I might have to tell you that. And you need to understand that that's being real.
Well, because candidate maintenance is about collecting all of the available information and making the best decision. And obviously looping them in along the way, right? I think the thing about candidate maintenance is that a lot of people start to take the candidate out of it, and it becomes recruiter maintenance. Like, well, I need them. I need them to do this. I need them to do that, right? And really, it's about maintaining their interest, maintaining their respect, maintaining their fill in the blank, and those things end up being what give back to you.
Yeah, and I think no company's perfect, right? Everybody's got their shit.
At Recruiting Daily, we are absolutely perfect.
I'll buy that.
Everybody will tell you that.
Yeah, I mean, every company's got their thing, though, and I think we need to make sure that we respect that, there are going to be things that we're going to have to tackle with candidates that are icky and uncomfortable, and but we have to talk through that. It happens, you go through a layoff or something, you're going to have to explain why you guys did that. There's no way of getting around it.
Have you ever had a weird thing happen, like where you didn't have any maintenance?
How do you mean? Like,
have you had an experience what was the worst situation where a candidate ghosted you?
I had a guy who I had set up, was probably this is back on the agency side, it was probably the single-handedly the largest spread deal I'd ever put together. We had a client that was just lighting money on fire. And this guy was really solid. The back of my mind, in retrospect, hindsight is 20/20, right? The back of my mind, there was a couple of funny things that he did that I probably should have caught on to, but I think I was 2 years into the business at the time. What do I know? Like, how do I know to look for that? And he's like, oh, I just want to make sure I've got all the information for Monday. And I got everything. I'm like, yeah, sure, you're all set. Everything's good to go. I'll actually meet you there. I'll walk in. Never showed up on Monday. To this day, 12 years later, I have never heard from the guy again.
What?
Never heard from the guy again. Zero social footprint, nothing. Like, I hope he didn't pass away or something. But I don't know. I don't know.
And the sign was that he was going to have a heart attack and.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, to call me on a Friday and say, hey, I'll see you there. But, not show up on Monday, I probably now have a little bit better aptitude to do some digging. I should go back and look for him.
Seriously.
Give us the name secretly. Let's find him.
Jackie, I know you have a good go-to
I'll find him in 2 seconds. My sister told me she went on a date with a guy named Josh. I found him in 2 seconds in LA. I'm going to keep it to myself. I had a candidate. I had it happen to me one time in my situation where they wouldn't fill out their paperwork, and it was a very important deal, and it was Easter Sunday, and I drove to their house and interrupted their Easter dinner.
No, you didn't.
I did. You know,
did you at least get some ham out of the deal?
I was like, hello. Oh, look at the whole family's here. I need you to fill out your paperwork.
No.
I did.
Oh, wow.
Line.
It was also,
right over it. Right over.
Also within my first I didn't know, but I just always took it personal. You know, like, because you're working in all of these situations. You understand that really you start getting that reputation where people know. And one of the things was I never had anybody not accept a deal that I offered because I wouldn't offer the deal. Mm-hmm. Right? I would pull it and I'd say we need to keep going because I would just get the heebie-jeebies or I wouldn't represent the candidate anymore.
Right.
That's a great point.
Corporate too.
I think that's an incredible point. So what would make you pull the deal, right? Like, so candidate maintenance is also about maintaining your reputation too, I think, right? And so at what point are you like, this candidate's a no-go? And how do you communicate that with them?
With the candidate?
Yeah, like if you're like, we're not working together anymore, what did they do? And how did you tell them? Jackie ghosted him. She ghosted him. You see that thing?
I mean, I've had to pull out of working with somebody before. I think that first conversation is always the feeling out, right? And I think you get a better sense of what they're really all about by that third or fourth conversation. And there was a guy, I think that's probably going back 4 or 5 years now, where I was working at a startup, and he knew we had oodles of money, like just setting it on fire again. And he 3 times in between the time of our last conversation coming in and by the time we got to the offer stage, he'd changed his salary number 3 times. And finally I was like, dude, you need to give me the final number. You need to let me know what that is, and it's not going to change because I'm only going to the well on this once. And he did that, and I made him the offer, and he came back and said, just got 3 offers for $25K more than this, which I knew was complete bullshit. Because initially, he told me a week earlier he had nothing brewing, and none of that comes to fruition in a week. And to change that 3 times, and then I changed it again at the 11th hour. I said, you know what? It's not worth it to us because I can't rely on you, and I need to have somebody in this role. This is a VP level role. I need to make sure that I can rely on you, and you've just shown us internally that we can't rely on you, or we're going to pull out from this discussion. And he didn't like that. It's some choice words. And I got a couple of nice nasty grams from him after that, but. I think we did the right thing. That's somebody who's gonna flip flop at the most important times, and I think we did that. That was too much to handle.
I think you should. This is a excuse me, another part of it. Like, I would contact candidates before I would make that deal or make that offer. I always would ask them, "Has anything changed last time I talked to you?" And they'd say no. And I'd say, okay, so if we get a deal at this amount, like I wouldn't say, oh, I want to make an offer, but I want to ask you some questions. I'd say, okay, so you're still going to accept the position at $40K. The commute is still fine. Right. You're fine with the benefits. If they make you an offer for $40K, you're in a position to accept it. And when they would start saying, well, and so what I used to say, you know what? I'm done. I'm not even going to make an offer. I don't even want to talk to you. I was like, potentially they want to make an offer, but I need to know that you want to make that job. You want to take this job. And they'd say, no. And I'd say, call me tomorrow. I don't even want to discuss it anymore. Call me tomorrow. And I would hang up and wait.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's it. Eventually, you have to kind of come to that. And I do this with counter offers too. People are going to counter offer. It's going to happen. I get that. It's, you get another offer. Hey, it's $5K more. I'm happy to take your job.
When they get counters, we all know the deal with counters. So that's the other part. When people would say, I got $20,000 more, whatever, I always would say, congratulations. I appreciate it. I never tried to say, oh, let me try to get you more money. I always would say.
Well, here's my thing. We can't compete with money. I talk about this all the time because I'm like, green is green. It's the same anywhere.
Well, I think it depends.
Commute with
like
flexibility, with management, with, you know what I mean? Like, why are we trying to go round and round about cash? Cash it's green everywhere.
If they're going to accept it for money, they're going to leave for more money. Yeah. That's always the theory, at least.
Yeah, and sometimes I guess I mean this more so in the way of competing offers, right? Somebody's got two offers on the table, one's for 85, one's for 95. Yeah, okay, great. I'm happy to see what I can do. If I've got the budget room, let me see what I can go and do in it. I've got one shot at this. I'm going to go one shot to the well because it's my name on the line internally. If I go and get this done, I need to know you're signing on the dotted line. None of this like, oh, you got me 5? Well, now I want 10 because now we're done. I've gone to the well one time and I'm only pushing that button once.
Yeah.
That's my reputation internally too as a negotiator, and I don't need to come back and keep keeping my hand out looking for more money every time. That's not going to help me.
And you brought up a great point. It's your reputation. I don't think the average candidate gets that you're kind of putting yourself on the line. It's not just about dollars and cents, and like you're going into some computer and like boop boop beep, boop boop. Here you go.
Mm-hmm. Well, and we've spent the last 2 decades, harvesting this adversarial relationship between employers and candidates. And I think we're finally starting to turn the corner. I know candidate experience gets used, but it is a big deal. The experience that somebody has as they go through one of the top 3 or 4 life-changing events you're going to have, changing jobs, changing careers. I think being able to make sure that we can embrace that and take that as something that is serious for people, and not making it adversarial. It does not need to be an us against them thing at all.
I think that, and you have to do it when you're in an agency, you have to do it on the client side too. A lot of times, well, I like the candidate, but I'm going to offer him $5,000 less than what we originally say.
Yeah.
It's like, you can't do that. And I think that's what gets recruiters frustrated because you're in the middle of it. And really, you have nothing to do with the decision. You're trying to facilitate a relationship.
Yeah.
It's like when I was a business analyst, I had to translate to both sides. I had to tell IT this is what they want, and I had to explain to them what they could have based on what the technical capabilities are. It's the same thing with this. Like ultimately, now the other thing that I would say when they would say I would really like to have $500,000 $500,000 a year, I'd say, you know what? Let me make one phone call. And I'll check. And I would. And I'd call the client and say, would you pay them $500,000 a year? And they'd say no. I'd call the candidate back and I'd say, I asked them. They said no. So now let's really talk about what's going on. Because at the same time, you can't play psychic.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. They could have, I don't know. God, I don't know why anybody would do that particular scenario. But
it happens.
But don't mess with me.
Don't mess with you and your dongle.
Yeah, I'll get you.
Right, I would too.
Candidates are just now they're getting a lot more. That's funny. They're getting a lot smarter.
Yes,
about stuff, and they're sharing information. Like, have you ever had to work with? Like, what kind of positions do you hire for, or in your vast recruiting history? It's been all over the map, or it's been
all over I mean, everything from the guy who cleans up the birthing room in the hospital after it's done, all the way up through, product managers and software architects. And true story, I did start hiring the guys that cleaned up the maternity ward after they were done. That was fun.
How do you recruit for that one?
Very carefully. Very carefully.
You on an interactive virtual experience.
It's not so much that I can say, let me show you and see if you want to do this job. I just need to know, like, are you really willing to do this job? So I think if you have volunteers, you kind of take them. But I think we're in an interesting time right now, right? I don't know you guys. My dad worked for the same company for 41 years. To this day, still does not understand why I've had a new job every 4 to 5 years. We'll never understand it. I'm 40 years old, and I still have to explain the rationale to him that it doesn't work. So you say that candidates have more opportunities now. better versed at conducting the management of their own career now. You know, they're so used to that transition, so used to moving jobs, so used to negotiating their salary, that I think some of them have become very proficient at it. And I think that that's okay. I mean, we do the same thing as recruiters, right? When we go to a new job, we negotiate the best offer for us. But you know, we're doing this day in and day out.
Well, who do you think is the hardest type of candidate to maintain? For me, it was I did IT, so it was everyone in IT, all developers.
To be honest, I think it's some of the new grads at times. Expectations are sometimes out of whack. You know, career services is not doing us any favors by throwing out all these bullshit surveys that are pie in the sky data. And being able to set the expectations that, you know, sometimes you need to take steps 1 and 2 before you climb right to step 3. That can be different. I don't want to generalize. It's not a generational thing. It's not a millennial thing. It's, you know, this is an issue I've seen with grads for 10 years.
Right. Yeah, but you know, reality does hit you in the face the older you get. I mean, come on. No. I mean, you can say it's not a direct thing, but you know, it changes as you get older. Your needs change, and so I think the way that you communicate what you need changes.
Well, it stops becoming about title and money, you know, somewhere in that late 20s, early 30s, right? Yes, those are still important, but you know, do I have the time off to take that I want to be with my family? Do I have the ability to work from home when I need just a day to like put headphones on and get my geek on? You know, I think looking at all those things factors into that as well. It's not just about the perks and the beer and the ball pit and all these other things.
Yeah, no, totally. Well, and I think too, like you said, the career centers aren't doing these kids any favors right now. And so these kids, and I've been thinking about this a lot lately. It's like, you know, these kids, they're not taught to pursue passion. They're taught to pursue job titles. And then when they come to talk to a recruiter, they are totally out of whack because they're like, I want to be a director of marketing. And you're like, who are you? Who are you? Like, yeah, me too.
Awesome. Yeah.
The worst was I mean, when we would have to get these technical candidates and they were like, oh, I just got my IT degree or whatever, my CIS. And I'd be like, guess what? It was outdated 6 months before you graduated. Yep.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, I don't want to ever kind of shoot anybody's balloon down. I mean, they've worked hard to get whatever they get. And I totally understand that, but there's a reality to the world as well. And it's shifting. You know, I think that what work looks like for candidates, what the process of coming into a job looks like for candidates has vastly changed. And we have to be real about that. But there's still some fundamentals I think that are gonna stay day to day. And again, that's on both of our ends to make sure that we're being realistic about what our expectations are.
Well, and I think you can do that. I think what happens is, and it happens with hiring managers too, when you're talking about salaries of at least what you're hearing. We're not basing it on some strange algorithm that was, you know, put together in California or someplace else. I say that because I live in Waco, Texas. So California is like Sri Lanka, you know? So I'm just saying, putting these things together, like this doesn't add up. And if I had an opportunity right now, I think I would want to be a recruiter in manufacturing, because I think you could absolutely blow some of these people's minds on what you could actually do to, you know, what you can pay in that field as somebody. There's a girl this week, of course, my husband works at the manufacturing academy, but this girl this week, she wants to be a doctor. And if she doesn't make it there, her path to is a welder.
She's got something to fall back on.
She's going to get more money as a welder than a first-year doctor.
Well, sure. Well, as a first-year doctor, sure. But I think if you look collectively over the career.
Come on, you know.
My mom built me a spreadsheet when I was when I was deciding to go to college. And today it's like, decide to go to college. But I decided because I had a full-time job offer before I even applied to college. And my mom was like, okay, yeah, $35,000 sounds like a lot of money right now. But let me show you your lifetime earning potential if you decide to be a retail manager at American Eagle versus for the rest of your life. Let me show you. I'm not kidding. Yeah. It was one of those, she just like built a little Excel. My mom's an accountant, so expect. But she just, okay, let me show you. Do you see this? And you're like, oh. And I think that's also a piece. I mean, just general information, lack of information. Parents don't give it, recruiters don't give it, career centers don't give it. So here's my question though, Pete, if you were training someone to learn how to do this, the things that you wish you knew back when you were, making your mistakes as far as candidate maintenance, what are kind of the, let's say the 3 things that you think everyone should know when they're trying to be better at this?
Put the checklist down and shut up and listen, because you learn a hell of a lot more by listening than you do with talking.
Yes.
Keep yourself organized, because you're going to lose if you don't keep notes on everything that you do. You'll never be able to go back and pick it up. Like Jackie said before, somebody goes on vacation, talk to them a week later. How was your vacation? Right. People remember the little things. And I think, the other thing is don't take shortcuts. Some of the stuff is going to feel like a nuisance, and it's going to feel time consuming. And it is, fortunately, a lot of the stuff that we do today, we have the ability to automate, communication aside. So I think that don't take shortcuts. It's really important to make sure that you're really kind of treating each thing as a kind of standalone event.
Well, you've addressed Karen really quick, because I see Karen in the sideline talking about bargaining and back and forth and the candidate and doing that stuff with that, and I just wanted to adjust it. I wanted to address it because I think everybody has a different recruiting style. And me, I guess it was years in the business. I negotiated and bargained every single penny I could up front before I talked to the candidate, because of the relationship with the hiring manager. So I already know where I can push, and I already know, I always say I was not in the job of giving raises. Yeah. I already knew what I could do, especially on the corporate side. I'm not going to negotiate for somebody else, right? I already know. And the thing is that I can't. The thing is that I don't want to be the asshole. I'm not going to go back and say, oh, I know you offered 65 and he said he wanted 50, but now he wants 80. I'm not doing that. Right. And what I have started weaving into it is encouraging them, in order to get that amount of money, since we don't have it here, why don't when you talk to your boss, talk about, can you do this within a 3-month period? Because right now we haven't even proved anything. We don't know. You say you're worth it. We don't know that you're worth it. This is what we think you're worth based on what we've paid other people and what we've seen. Work it out so that in 3 months, sign something that says, if within 3 months you meet these goals, perhaps you can get more money. But until you do that right now, you just look like, a whiny 5-year-old right now. And when you do the math too, you can tell them we're talking about quarters. Right. Right. A lot of times we're talking about a nickel.
Yeah, you talk about people negotiating $2 or $3 grand. Okay, great. That's really not that hard to do. Typically, you can make that happen. But are you really going to walk away from what appears to be the right actual job for you for what amounts to be $42.86 a week? Mm-hmm. Come on.
Because there's always something under that, right? It's never. That's where the creep meter starts going. You're like, okay, so what do you really want here? What is your goal? Because your goal has changed from getting a great job at a great company with a great future. There's something else weird. Yeah. There's something weird going on. Like my eyebrows. Have you seen those? Oh my God. Sorry. Distracted by my own eyebrows.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of parallels too, where we can kind of display this trust, because inevitably, and I think what Karen's getting at is that the candidate always has the option to negotiate. Right? We know that. And they're going to, and they want to. But having all the information up front is our responsibility.
Oh. Yes.
Because, think about it. Like if I went to an event, like let's say I was going to hold an event, and I went to the venue and I was like, oh, this is great. And they told me it was going to be X. And I negotiated. And then right before I signed the paperwork, I was like, whoa, wait. Can you actually do this price? Do I think I'm going to get it? No. Realistically, that's not the time to negotiate, right? So,
well, and I think if we've talked about it, 3 or 4 times, I think I responded that back to Karen. We've talked about it 4 times, right? And we've already this has been our kind of running number. All of a sudden now that changes. What's the catalyst for making that change? And it is a breakdown in the trust cycle. And I'm very big on being able to trust the people that I have to work with both internally and externally. And sure, maybe that's a little naive on my part, and you try to trust everybody, and knowing that maybe that's not the right way to do it. I've learned that over the years, but I think when you try to build a fundamental base of trust with somebody for it to take a left turn at the 11th hour, yeah, you're right. It's your prerogative, but it's also my prerogative to go, you know what, can't do it, and I'm walking away.
We got the information before we even submitted the candidate, right? Right. We didn't submit you. We submitted you because you said you wanted $5 an hour. God, I'm dating myself. But you know what I mean? It's like we already agreed on it. So I went back. Now I have to go back, and we're not even talking. The thing is that there's a problem when you stop talking about what you're actually trying to do, which is to fill a position with talent. When you start having conversations that have nothing to do with talent or job expectations for too long, where that becomes the bulk of your conversation, there's always something weird. There's just something weird going on. And the thing is, it's also an opportunity to say what's really going on here. Because it could be something serious, Yeah. Or somebody's sick in my family. We're going to have to reload, and my mom's, there's always something. And you also have to ask the candidate, let me know who is part of this decision-making process for you. Just like we ask the hiring managers who's going to be a part of making the hiring decision. Ask them who's going to be part of their hiring decision. What is your, what are other obstacles that you're getting at home? Right. You can't ask about this pointed question. Are you married? Do you have kids? But you can ask them, who's part of your own decision? What would this person like to see? What would this person like to help them make the decision? Because they're going to get paid back in accolades sometimes by where they live or the environment, or there's a gym in there. You can negotiate, but let's not talk money. Let's talk environment. And let's talk how your life is going to change once you get there, because sometimes it's worth it, the pay cut.
Yeah, I think one of the most pointed questions I ask every single candidate I talk to is like, what's that most important thing with you with this next role that you go into? And I mean that both from, what you want out of the job and the work that you're doing, but what do you want in terms of culture and environment? And there have to be times that, I talk to people and they say something, I go, oh, that's just, we're not like that. And I have to be candid with them about that. And if that's their decision to make, if they think that they can mold to that, great. If not, it's my responsibility to be candid with them about what we do, what we are, and what we're not.
Yep. I love that. I like that. I just love the concept of actually testing culture fit, right? It's saying, okay, sorry, I just caught this corner of my eye. We're saying this is what you really need. Okay. We can't do that. And I think that's a really honest piece, because it's a retention question. Because hiring, I think hiring can be very short-sighted, right? It's when you get too attracted to the checklist and kind of forget about the big picture.
Well, and I think in the same token too, right? Like, I'm not here to put asses in seats. Sure, I guess technically speaking I am, but I'm here to make long-term fits. If I make a shitty fit, guess who's filling that again in 3 months?
Yep.
Me. There are 4 of us here. I'm the only one that handles tech. It's coming back to me. So it's on me when I, don't vet that. And I have to take responsibility for that.
Yeah.
What is it about company culture about us? Because we're such a weird company culture at Recruiting Daily. You can't even really explain it. And the reason I bring it up is because Matt called me and asked me if I knew a particular person. And I said, well, and he was like, okay, that's all I needed to know. And I was like, I didn't even say anything. And he goes, I already decided if you didn't go into the conversation saying, oh, this person's awesome, then I'm not going to make a hire.
Yeah, like for us, I know within probably 5 minutes of meeting someone if they're a good fit for us. And that's because I know what the day looks like, right? Just like you're saying, I know what your role is going to look. Example, I want to be promoted in 6 months. You know those people. And if you know that your company is one of those places where you have to hunker down and be there for 2 years to get promoted, that's the exact moment where you should be like, that ain't going to happen. And I don't, just, it's not going to happen, period.
That's why maintenance is so important. When you're talking to the candidates, you'll know if they're going to fit. The more you know them, the more you know if they're going to be a good fit or not. And that's another reason why you might just pull out. Like, I don't, just the way that people communicate sometimes is the culture fit.
Well, I think, Katrina said, within 5 minutes, I think a large portion of what we do, while supported by data and evidence at times, a lot of it comes down to trusting your gut too, especially if you've been doing this for 15 or 20 years, you know what the red flags are that you're looking for. And you need to trust your gut. Sometimes it's cloudy because you're like, oh, I'm so goddamn close to filling this role that I've been working on for 3 months. And let's just see what happens. And it's really easy to get sucked into that. But I think sometimes the harder goal is to trust your gut.
I just got so pissed off. I had to stop. Someone was like arguing with me on Twitter. So someone was arguing with me on Twitter about how algorithms are going to make better hiring choices. And I said, the more you depend on these algorithms, you're going to lose your own gut feeling. And I think that depending on the algorithm, I'm a tech geek too. So it depends, but I was like, but then you get too dependent on things and then you don't trust your gut feelings and then you go against, and it can cause like mass chaos. And they were like, it's still going to make a better choice.
The nerd in me is like, you don't have the right inputs. If we knew what the inputs were to make the right hiring decision, we'd all be doing it. We'd all be making the perfect hires. We'd have these perfect stasis hiring environments where we wouldn't need 4 recruiters to source a business worth of content, right? And until anyone can tell me what those inputs are, they can take their algorithm and go smoke it because it's bull.
Yeah, agreed.
Everybody has their different opinions. Everybody has their different life things that make you make those decisions, and you can't put that on an input.
You can't. And look, we're all guilty is the wrong word, but we're all avid users of technology that employs AI to some degree. But that's not going to solve all the problems by any stretch of the imagination. It's just not. It's not going to work for every single situation. There's too many variables that go on. I think the boss that gave me my first recruiting job, I said, well, what's one piece of advice you'd give me? I'm like a month in. He goes, people are the most unpredictable commodity in the world. End of story. I'm like, okay. And that's kind of stuck with me. I have to kind of understand you always have to be ready for what you don't know is coming.
It's they are the most variable element of all time. It's humans. Yeah. Because there's the network effect, right? It's how other humans affect them. It's how their own brain affects their own decisions and all their past and history. And it's just not a one-to-one. Like, it's not like, the ball hits this side and then it swings to the other side. It just doesn't work like that.
I mean, think about it. Let's say people say, oh, an algorithm can tell you who's going to be the best candidate. Let's just pretend. Okay. Can you build an algorithm that's going to tell you what my favorite food is?
Right.
Think about it. That'd be dumb. Okay, you're black, you live in Waco, barbecue? No, you're going to have to go further than that. Oh, you have family in the crib. It could never do it. Yeah. And it's kind of the same because it comes down to personal taste. So that's what happens that's why a standalone single algorithm without any human input is not going to make the most higher because at the end of the day, it's going to be, personal taste.
Yeah, it's a little easier with somebody from New York. It's inherent that you can build an AI that says that we love pizza and bagels.
And hot dogs. We all have cable. We know what you like in New York.
There you go.
And coffee.
That's it.
Well, I wanted to see curry. No, I love curry though.
Me too. I'm like, oh, what I would do. I live in the South, like in Nashville. You cannot get any decent curry anywhere within like a 20-mile radius.
In Waco.
You win. You can like multiply all of your radiuses by 5 to 10 for Waco.
My favorite Chinese food is Panda Express. And they don't have to get too young there.
Gosh. All right. Does anyone have any questions for us? Please feel free to share those. We can obviously answer anything. Is there anything about candidate maintenance that we didn't touch on? Or I think there's one thing that's on my mind, actually, the whole idea of candidate sustainability.
And I just laugh. Does anybody have any questions? Actually, I do.
I know. Wait. It happens. That always happens to me. I'm like, wait. I'm that girl. I know.
Love you like a sister. Okay.
But candidate sustainability, right? and you mentioned this really briefly earlier about having a relationship with someone, but not hiring them. You said, the best recruiter that's never gotten me a job. What are some tips on that? Like this soft no? I don't know how to call it. Like, what would you even call it? Like the kind letdown?
Well, I get a lot of people who get referred to me or that pop up and say, hey, I'd like to talk to you about so-and-so. And I don't necessarily have something for them here, but if it's a referral from a friend or a colleague, what harm do I have in sending it out to a distro list of 20 recruiters that I know in the area that can, hey, if you know so-and-so, give them a ring, feel free to drop my name. That builds a lot of camaraderie with people. And they're like, wow, you are not making a cent off of me, yet you sent my resume to, 10, 15, 20 people who now 5 of them have already called me in the last 24 hours.
Yeah.
I like, it kind of goes with what Audra was saying. Me, I'm just a big goofball. So, I mean, I can't ever train people on how to do that. I used to just call them and say, oh my God, the hiring manager is so stupid. They didn't choose you and you're the best, right? And we'd have that conversation. Then then we would move on, yeah. But that's just my personality type, but it kind of goes with what Audra is saying, like the standard email. I mean, you close a rec, is so lame. Is there a better way for people that were never contacted for the interview? People who weren't contacted, that's a tough one.
It is, but, I think what we've noticed, and I think in the last 2 years, we've really shifted our messaging to make sure that everybody gets some kind of contact from us, even if that's a thank you, no thank you. I see, anecdotally at least, a lot more people responding back for saying, thank you for letting me know. I really appreciate you letting me know the job's closed. And that's okay. And then it takes me 0.6 seconds to write back, no problem. Please keep an eye on the site for other jobs. That little piece, I think, goes so long with people, more so than I think we realize.
I think it's worth hiring an intern to make actual phone calls in that case. And some of the, depending on how many, to me, it's worth it because you can continue to have a script so they can continue the conversation and continue. Oh, not everybody. Now, come on now. Not hundreds per jobs, but I mean,
yeah.
The people, you can have the standard. It goes back again. Now I'm going to contradict myself. So you have your standard like weed out algorithm. You have the weed out, right? Like, does this person have 5 years experience? Do you have da-da-da-da-da? Then you have the standard, like, I did get an email back that said from, I don't know who the algorithm or what ATS, but it said, we are going to pass on your background. This needed 5 years of experience. And I'm not giving you the real example. It says 5 years of experience. You indicated you only had 3 years experience. We really need da-da-da-da-da. If you think we made an error on our part, da-da-da-da-da. But then it made it more clear. Like, we actually looked at your background. We don't think you're going to be a good fit at this time. And then that's when you have that little intern to come in. I think it's always good to have somebody that people can talk to if they have a question, to a point.
Yeah.
Not to a stalking level or a yelling.
So in my experience, marketing land, right? Traditionally, the way that I make an automated email, and so Audra, I'm assuming that you're talking about something that's automated, right? Like something that's in your ATS that when you click not going to hire them or whatever drop down you do and they shoot it out, that one. So if you are using that, which I wouldn't say is great for everyone, I understand if you have high volume, but I've heard some incredible statistics about actually looking at every resume and how many hires they made out of it at CA Technologies. They went through 10,000 resumes that they had gotten manually, and they hired like 400 people out of that group.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But so the way that I would say to format that automated email is to have a little voice with it. So the verbiage I would use. Now, you are so special to us. We really appreciate something that says that you're special to us. Okay.
Not the
next part says we we run a small team. We're very lean, but we want to make sure that we contact every person who reaches out to us. This is an automated email, but if you reply, you will speak to a human.
Right.
Just that one sentence. This is an automated email. You're special to me too, Audra. but seriously, like, I think just admitting we don't have bandwidth to reply to everyone, but we care. Mm-hmm. And here's what you can do if we were wrong, like you were saying. I think those two elements make the standard automated email markedly better.
Because sometimes the candidate's going to be the one that fights for their job and they're not a weirdo.
Yeah.
May be the best candidate for their job. And as recruiters, we may overlook some things sometimes.
Yeah.
Sure.
Absolutely. Or somebody clicked the wrong button and it automatically said no to them because XYZ or however your crap's set up. Like,
done that, and it was back in the day and they had to reapply. I couldn't even.
Right. Well, so my answer is honesty is the best policy. If it's automated, tell people it's automated because you are dealing with humans. They should know.
Mm-hmm.
Say, hey,
I think that's fair.
I'm not gonna lie. This is an automated email that's generated because of like what you said.
Yep. Because we run a
team. I think that's fair. It's you're not keeping anything undercover. Then you're being completely transparent. Transparency is probably the right word for this entire conversation. Are you being candid and transparent with people? And the more that you do those things, the less actual maintenance that you really have to do because everything just kind of flows naturally then.
Well, and then keep in mind too, it's that I think it's important to keep a social footprint too, so that you do. I mean, there's some of us that are out there that are so easy to find, but make yourself Googleable.
Yeah.
So that if they do have it where maybe you can have it offline and then have good software where you can block crazy people.
Okay.
Exactly. All right. I think that's
awesome.
Our show, my friends.
All right.
Pete, I'm so glad. Yeah. Pete won the internet.
Thanks for having us.
Article against lions.
We'll see. There might be some death threats against you later on.
We have a very good post up today by this guy.
They ask, not me. They ask Charney all the time to be on a speaker this or speaker that. It's like they don't even read his shit. Don't even worry about it. You're not going to get any death threats.
They asked us if we wanted to talk about our brand on LinkedIn and some advertising strategies. So I think I'm going to send Steve Levy in and just let him.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
And I want to apologize for eating, but the nuts were on sale at the Walgreens.
You were so ridiculous.
Nice.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much. We will be back next week, right? Usually.
We're doing body language next week.
Whoa. I can't wait to hear what they're going to say about me.
I don't even know this guy, dude. So everybody, please come support us. I don't even know this guy.
We're winging it. You ask for information, we're gonna find somebody who can tell us about it.
I am so scared, and I think he's has some rabbinical background, and I don't want to offend him. I have to watch my language. I'm not going to cuss until he cusses.
Not tell the story about the hookers, Jackie. No story about hookers.
If you see me going down that, somebody please.
Actually, if you want to send a private message about the hookers, that's fine.
If I start, just put #recruiter in the comments. I'll know what that means.
There you go.
Exactly. This will be our warning flag. This is our white flag for when Jackie sells something inappropriate.
But at least now I can pause recording. Okay.
There you go. Moving on up.
Everybody tell Blab that we want our tweet GIF back.
Yes.
Thanks, guys.
All right, party people.
All right. See you guys.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.